Have you ever been crushed by someone's criticism, betrayed by a friend, or left feeling worthless after a rejection? What if the pain you feel has almost nothing to do with them and everything to do with you? Carl Jung, one of history's most profound psychologists, uncovered a truth so powerful that once you see it, no insult, betrayal, or harsh judgment can ever shake you the same way again. For decades, Jung's work has revealed that the wounds we carry aren't just from what others do to us. They're mirrors of our own unconscious fears, insecurities, and unhealed parts. Most people spend their lives reacting to these triggers, trapped in cycles of anger, resentment, and victimhood. But Jung discovered the key to breaking free. True emotional invincibility doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. In this video, we'll explore how his revolutionary insights can help you uncover the hidden roots of your pain, reclaim your power, and reach a level of self-awareness where no one can hurt you without your permission. Carl Jung's most radical idea was this: the world doesn't hurt you, your own unconscious reactions do. Most of us assume that pain comes from external sources, harsh words, betrayal, rejection, but Jung flipped this belief on its head. He taught that true emotional resilience isn't about shielding yourself from others. It's about uncovering the hidden parts of your own psyche that make you vulnerable in the first place. When someone's words sting, when criticism cuts deep, it's rarely about them. Instead, it's a signal, an invitation to look inward and ask, why does this affect me so much? What unresolved wound is this touching? Once you grasp this, you realize that no one has the power to hurt you unless you grant them that power. And that realization changes everything. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is one of his most profound and unsettling discoveries. It refers to the unconscious part of our personality that houses everything we deny, suppress, or refuse to acknowledge about ourselves. These are the traits, impulses, and memories we've shoved into the dark corners of our psyche. Our hidden insecurities, our buried anger, our secret desires, even the talents we've neglected out of fear or shame. As Jung famously observed, we don't see ourselves as we are, we see ourselves as we wish to be. But here's the crucial truth: the shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. Instead, it seeps out in ways we don't expect, through sudden outbursts of emotion, irrational dislikes, or the traits we criticize most harshly in others. When someone says something that triggers an intense reaction in you, rage, defensiveness, or deep hurt, it's often because they've unknowingly poked at your shadow. That knee-jerk response is a signal, a flare shot up from your unconscious, pointing directly at a part of yourself you've been unwilling to face. The irony? The more we try to present a polished, perfect version of ourselves to the world, the more power we give to the shadow. It's the price of self-deception. The qualities we disown don't vanish. They just control us from the shadows. But Jung offered a way out: integration. By courageously confronting these rejected parts, not to indulge them, but to understand and reclaim them, we drain them of their power to sabotage us. The goal isn't to become flawless, but whole. Because only when we stop running from our darkness can we finally step into the light. The most unsettling truth about human psychology is this: we are never truly upset for the reasons we think. When someone triggers an intense emotional reaction in you, whether it's anger, resentment, or deep hurt, it's rarely about their behavior alone. More often, it's because they've unconsciously mirrored back a disowned part of yourself. This is the shadow at work. What you can't tolerate in others is usually what you haven't made peace with in yourself. Take a moment to consider the traits that irritate you most in other people. Is it selfishness? Incompetence? Neediness? Arrogance? Now ask yourself, have I ever displayed these qualities, even subtly? For instance, if you despise arrogance in others, could it be because you've spent years suppressing your own desire to be seen as exceptional? If you judge people for being too emotional, is it because you've been taught to hide your vulnerability? The intensity of your reaction is often proportional to how fiercely you've rejected that same trait within yourself. This isn't about blame, it's about power. When you recognize that your triggers are signposts pointing to your own shadow, you reclaim agency over your emotional life. Instead of being at the mercy of other people's behavior, you gain the ability to pause and ask, why does this bother me so much? What hidden part of me is being reflected here? This simple shift transforms conflicts from personal attacks into opportunities for self-discovery. The next time someone upsets you, resist the instinct to react immediately. Instead, take a breath and ask, what does this reaction say about me? Don't look for superficial answers. Dig deeper. Is there a fear, insecurity, or unexpressed part of yourself that this interaction is bringing to light? This practice isn't about excusing poor behavior in others. It's about freeing yourself from the patterns that keep you emotionally hostage. Because the ultimate truth is this: no one can trigger what isn't already there. When you stop fearing your shadow, you take the first step toward true emotional liberation. Carl Jung's revelation about projection changes everything about how we experience conflict. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This psychological mechanism explains why we often feel so personally attacked by other people's behavior, because unconsciously, we're seeing aspects of ourselves that we haven't acknowledged or accepted. Projection is the mind's defense mechanism against uncomfortable truths, a way of externalizing what we can't bear to recognize within. Consider how this plays out in daily life. In relationships, you might accuse your partner of being cold or distant when you're actually uncomfortable with your own need for emotional intimacy. At the workplace, a colleague's ambition might trigger your resentment, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because you've suppressed your own professional aspirations. With friends, you might judge someone for being needy while refusing to admit how much you crave validation yourself. These projections create a distorted lens through which we view the world. The traits we condemn in others often represent qualities we've been taught to suppress, whether it's anger, vulnerability, or desire. The more we deny these parts of ourselves, the more intensely we'll react when we see them reflected in other people. But here's the transformative insight. Every irritation is an invitation to self-awareness. When you feel that familiar surge of judgment or annoyance, that's your cue to turn inward. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Try asking, what does this say about me? The answer might surprise you. This doesn't mean excusing genuinely harmful behavior. It means recognizing that your emotional reactions are messengers, pointing you toward parts of yourself that need attention and integration. Projection isn't a flaw, it's a universal human experience. The difference between those who remain trapped in conflict and those who achieve emotional freedom comes down to one choice. Will you use your reactions as a mirror or as a weapon? When you start seeing your judgments as clues to your own unconscious landscape, you'll discover that most battles were never about the other person to begin with. The peace you've been seeking wasn't out there. It was waiting for you to stop projecting and start understanding. Breaking the cycle of projection. The crucial distinction in emotional mastery lies in recognizing the difference between projection and genuine harm. While projection explains many of our knee-jerk reactions, it doesn't mean all negative interactions are our fault. Some behaviors are objectively toxic or abusive. The wisdom comes in knowing when you're encountering a true threat versus when your own unconscious material is coloring the situation. Start by asking yourself, does this person's behavior objectively cross reasonable boundaries, or does it simply push my personal buttons? A coworker taking credit for your ideas is a real violation worth addressing. But that same coworker's confident demeanor only bothers you because you suppress your own assertiveness. That's projection. The key is to separate facts from feelings. Truth reveals itself when multiple reasonable people would agree something is wrong, whereas projection shows up when only you feel disproportionately upset. This discernment requires brutal self-honesty. When you feel slighted, pause and consider, is this person actually mistreating me? Or am I reacting to old wounds they've unintentionally brushed against? That friend who didn't text back might legitimately be busy. Your spiral into abandonment fears likely says more about your history than their actions. The most emotionally mature people don't stop feeling things deeply. They become astute interpreters of what their feelings are actually signaling. Jung's insight offers profound relief. Not everyone is out to get you. Sometimes, it's your own mind playing tricks. This realization doesn't invalidate your pain. It empowers you to address its true source. Some people will genuinely wrong you and deserve boundaries. But many more are simply mirrors. And learning the difference is how you stop giving away your power. When you withdraw projections, you reclaim both your emotional stability and your ability to see others and yourself with startling clarity. The world becomes less threatening when you realize most battles were never about the other person to begin with. At the heart of Jung's psychology lies a radical proposition. Wholeness is not achieved through perfection, but through integration. Individuation represents the lifelong process of reconciling our conscious identity with the unconscious aspects of ourselves we've denied or ignored. This isn't about self-improvement in the conventional sense, it's about something far more transformative. As Jung expressed, you don't heal by pretending you're perfect, you heal by embracing your entirety. Individuation begins when we stop fighting our contradictions and start recognizing them as essential parts of our totality. The ambitious executive who makes space for his creative impulses, the perfectionist who learns to accept her messy humanity, the people-pleaser who rediscovers his righteous anger, these are all examples of individuation in action. This process doesn't erase our flaws. It transforms our relationship to them. What we once saw as weaknesses become sources of depth, authenticity, and unexpected strength. The journey requires courage to face what we've buried, to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we've been ashamed of, and ultimately, to realize that our power comes not from eliminating our shadows, but from bringing them into conscious awareness. Individuation isn't about becoming someone new, it's about becoming more fully who you already are, with all your complexities, paradoxes, and hidden potentials. When we stop fragmenting ourselves into acceptable and unacceptable parts, we discover an unshakable foundation that no external judgment can undermine. This path has no final destination, only deeper layers of understanding. Each time we integrate a disowned aspect of ourselves, we gain greater emotional resilience, more authentic relationships, and a profound sense of inner alignment. The individuated person isn't flawless. There's something far more powerful, whole. And in that wholeness lies the ultimate freedom. The realization that no one can hurt you by simply reflecting back the parts you've already made peace with. The path to wholeness isn't mystical. It's practical, built through deliberate, often uncomfortable work. Individuation requires more than passive self-awareness. It demands active engagement with the parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. Here's how to begin. First, self-reflection must become non-negotiable. Most people go through life reacting without understanding why they react. The individuation process starts when you pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to show me? This isn't about overanalyzing. It's about developing an honest dialogue with yourself. Journaling is one of the most powerful tools for this. When you externalize your thoughts, you create distance from them, allowing hidden patterns to emerge. Write about your triggers, recurring conflicts, and even your judgments of others, then look for the common threads. You'll often find that what you resent in others mirrors what you deny in yourself. For deeper work, therapy, particularly Jungian analysis, provides a structured space to explore your unconscious. A skilled therapist acts as a guide, helping you uncover blind spots and navigate the vulnerable process of facing what you've suppressed. There's no substitute for this kind of objective, compassionate feedback. Finally, confronting fears is where theory meets reality. Individuation stalls when we refuse to step into discomfort, whether it's having that difficult conversation, setting boundaries, or simply sitting with painful emotions instead of numbing them. Every time you choose courage over avoidance, you reclaim a fragment of your psyche. As Jung knew, the more you know yourself, the less others can manipulate you. This isn't just about protection, it's about liberation. When you've faced your own shadows, no one can use them against you. When you've owned your contradictions, no criticism can destabilize you. Individuation doesn't make you invincible, it makes you unalterably yourself, and that is the ultimate defense against a world that constantly tries to define you. Jung's transformative insight, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become," reveals the core of emotional autonomy. This isn't about denying pain or pretending adversity doesn't matter. It's about recognizing a fundamental truth. Your power lies not in what happens to you, but in how you relate to it. Every slight criticism or rejection carries only the weight you assign to it. When someone's words sting, it's not their voice alone you're hearing. It's your own unconscious beliefs echoing back. Detaching from others' opinions begins with a simple but profound shift. Stop conflating observations with identity. Someone might call you lazy, but that doesn't make it true unless you internalize it. The difference between a wound and a trivial remark comes down to one question: do I believe this about myself? If the answer is yes, that's where the real work lies, not in silencing others, but in examining why their words resonate so deeply. This isn't passive acceptance of poor treatment. It's the realization that your self-worth isn't a democracy where others get a vote. Emotional autonomy means developing an inner compass so strong that external judgments become weather, sometimes uncomfortable, but never defining. When you stop outsourcing your value to others, their words lose the power to destabilize you. The path here is paradoxical. The more you accept your imperfections, the less others can weaponize them. A person secure in their complexity doesn't crumble under criticism. They consider it, extract what's useful, and release the rest. This is the ultimate application of Jung's wisdom. When you stop resisting your shadows, no one can use them against you. The world will always have opinions, but only you decide what sticks. Emotional autonomy isn't a shield against life, it's the art of no longer needing one. The Stoics, much like Jung, understood that true freedom comes from mastering our perceptions. Their principle of amor fati, love your fate, teaches us to embrace every experience, not as something that happens to us, but as material for our growth. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting defensively, ask, "How can this serve me?" Even painful interactions become opportunities to strengthen your self-awareness and resilience. This isn't passive resignation, it's active alchemy, transforming what could wound you into what can refine you. Mindfulness is the bridge between theory and lived experience. When triggered, most people spiral into stories. "They disrespected me. This proves I'm unworthy." Mindfulness interrupts this by anchoring you in the present moment. Notice the physical sensations of emotion, the heat of anger, the weight of hurt, without immediately attaching meaning to them. This pause creates space between stimulus and response, where choice resides. Over time, you'll catch reactions earlier, until eventually, what once felt like an attack becomes mere data, useful, but not personal. For example, if a colleague's dismissive tone triggers insecurity, reframe it. "This isn't about my worth, it's about their stress. My discomfort shows where I need to strengthen my self-trust." The event remains the same, but its power over you dissolves. These tools, Stoic acceptance, mindful awareness, and cognitive reframing, form a trifecta for emotional sovereignty. They don't numb you to life. They awaken you to your innate capacity to meet any experience without being defined by it. Pain becomes information. Conflict becomes curriculum. And every interaction, no matter how challenging, becomes another step toward unshakable self-possession. What began as an exploration of Jung's psychology ends with an empowering revelation. Your emotional freedom was never contingent on others changing. It was always about your willingness to meet yourself. Through shadow work, you uncovered hidden parts of your psyche. By recognizing projections, you stopped blaming others for mirroring what you denied in yourself. The journey of individuation taught you that wholeness isn't the absence of flaws, but the integration of them. And in claiming emotional autonomy, You discovered that no one holds power over your inner world unless you surrender it. This is the ultimate takeaway. The greatest armor is self-knowledge. Once you truly grasp this, insults lose their sting, betrayals become lessons, and rejections transform into redirections. The world will always have opinions, but you now possess the tools to discern what's yours to carry and what's theirs to keep. Now, we turn this insight over to you. Which of Jung's ideas resonated most deeply? Was it the revelation of your shadow, the freedom of withdrawn projections, the journey toward individuation, or the power of emotional autonomy? Share your thoughts below. This conversation is just as much yours as it is ours.